Hey guys, tonight we're going to take a very, very slow journey into the depths of the ancient Greek underworld, a realm shrouded in eternal twilight, where the air hangs heavy with the scent of asphodel and the distant murmur of countless souls. You're about to meet one of the most misunderstood figures in the Greek pantheon, Hades, Lord of the Dead. Imagine the chilling breath on your neck as you stand at the precipice, gazing down into the inky blackness that stretches further than your mind can comprehend. The ground beneath your feet feels strangely soft, a bit like very old dust, but somehow alive. You probably won't survive this trip in real life, given the lack of oxygen and the general unfriendliness of eternal damnation. But don't worry, tonight it's just a story designed to lull you into a deep, peaceful sleep. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. If you're listening from, say, a cozy little apartment in London, tell us in the comments. Or maybe it's the middle of the night in Sydney. Wherever you are, I hope you're feeling wonderfully relaxed. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find yourself on the very edge of the known world, standing before a yawning chasm, a crack in the earth that leads to the unseen. This isn't just a cave, mind you. It's a cosmic doorway, a one-way ticket for most. As you peer into the abyss, you notice a peculiar shimmer, not of light, but of absence. It's like looking at a piece of sky where the stars have been perfectly erased. This is the domain of Hades, often mistakenly called Tartarus by the less informed. But Tartarus, as you'll soon find, is just one very unpleasant neighborhood within this vast, shadowy metropolis. The air here doesn't carry the briskness of mountain winds or the dampness of sea spray. It's thick, still, and carries a faint, almost imperceptible hum, like a distant, ethereal tuning fork. This hum, you begin to realize, is the collective sigh of countless spirits, a perpetual chorus of what ifs and oh wells. Hades himself isn't some fiery demon with a pitchfork, despite what some later traditions might suggest. No, he's more of a cosmic bureaucrat, a CEO of the Afterlife Inc., making sure everything runs smoothly in the land of the deceased. He's often depicted as stern, unyielding, and utterly impartial, which, when you think about it, is exactly what you'd want in the person managing your eternal rest, or lack thereof. He's not evil, just busy. Imagine running a city where everyone is already dead, but still has opinions. Sounds exhausting, right? That's Hades's Monday. His realm, known simply as the Underworld, is not a place of torment for all, but rather the final destination for every mortal soul. It's a vast and complex dominion, structured almost like a subterranean kingdom with various districts, each with its own vibe, if you will. From the moment a soul departs the living world, it begins its inevitable journey here. You might even catch a glimpse of newly arrived spirits, flitting about like confused moths, drawn to the only place left to go. Historians still argue whether the concept of a single, unified underworld was a pre-Homeric idea or one that evolved with the proliferation of epic poetry. It's a classic chicken or egg scenario for ancient Greek religious studies. As you step gingerly into this realm, you feel a faint chill seep into your bones, not the cold of winter, but the peculiar coolness of a place untouched by the sun's warmth. The ground underfoot isn't earth or rock, but something more nebulous, perhaps the solidified despair of millennia, or maybe just very fine, magical dust. It's certainly not the kind of terrain you'd want to go hiking on. You notice a pervasive, soft gray light emanating from no discernible source, merely existing. It's enough to see by, but not enough to cast harsh shadows or reveal vivid colors. Everything is muted, softened, as if viewed through a perpetually dusty window pane. It's a remarkably consistent aesthetic. Really, you won't find any garish neon signs here advertising Charon's Ferry, half price Tuesdays. No, Hades believes in understated elegance. You are entering a land of profound quiet, punctuated only by the occasional distant moan or the rustle of unseen spirits. It's surprisingly peaceful in its own somber way. You might even feel a peculiar sense of calm wash over you, a resignation to the inevitable, which is, after all, rather fitting for the realm of the dead. This quietness is almost hypnotic, drawing you deeper into the ancient tales we're about to explore. One quirky tidbit about the underworld is that some ancient Greek beliefs held that certain trees, like the poplar and the willow, had roots that actually reached down into Hades's realm, drawing up some of its unique energy. So next time you see a willow tree, remember, it might just be dipping its toes into the land of the departed. As you venture further into this serene yet strangely unsettling landscape, a low, guttural growl rumbles through the spectral air. It's not an angry sound, more like a perpetual grumble, the kind you hear from a very large, very tired dog. And indeed, as the path gently curves, you see him, Cerberus, the famed three-headed guardian of the underworld's entrance. He's exactly as the myths describe, colossal and fearsome, with three distinct heads, each sporting a set of surprisingly well-maintained teeth. His fur, if you can call the shadowy tendrils that ripple over his massive form fur, seems to absorb what little light there is, making him appear as a shifting void within the gloom. He doesn't bark or snarl at you, which is a relief. Instead, his multiple noses twitch, probably trying to determine if you're a fresh soul or just a very lost tourist. He's essentially the bouncer for the biggest, most exclusive club in existence. He's not a particularly chatty fellow, preferring to communicate through low growls and the occasional flick of his serpent-like tail. One head might yawn, revealing a cavernous maw, while another watches you with an unnervingly intelligent gaze. The third, you notice, seems perpetually focused on something just beyond your perception, perhaps anticipating the next arrival, or maybe just dreaming of a very large, eternal bone. Historians still argue whether the concept of a multi-headed guardian dog was a localized myth in certain Greek regions or a more widespread belief. Some theories suggest it might have roots in earlier Near Eastern mythology, given the interconnectedness of ancient cultures. But honestly, who wouldn't want a dog with three heads? Think of the fetch games. Past the somewhat intimidating, but ultimately rather sleepy, Cerberus, you come to the River Styx. This isn't your average, meandering stream. It's a wide, sluggish body of water, its surface as dark and reflective as polished obsidian. A chilling mist rises from its depths, clinging to the phantom trees that line its banks. The air around the river feels heavy, thick with the weight of countless oaths sworn upon its unfeeling waters. To the ancient Greeks, swearing by the Styx was the most solemn and unbreakable vow possible, even for the gods. Break that oath, and you were in for a very, very bad time. Imagine being grounded by Zeus for 9 years, unable to eat nectar or ambrosia, the divine equivalent of being told you can't have Wi Fi for a decade. Truly horrific. And there, waiting patiently on the banks, is Charon, the ferryman. He's not a spectral figure, but a gaunt, weathered old man, wrapped in dark, tattered robes. His eyes, though ancient, pierce the gloom with an almost luminous intensity. He doesn't speak, doesn't offer a welcoming smile. He simply extends a gnarled hand, patiently awaiting his fee. This is where your preparations come in handy. Remember those 2 coins, the obols, that were traditionally placed under the tongue or over the eyes of the deceased. They're not just for show. They're Charon's payment. Without them, you're out of luck. He's not running a charity. There's no buy now, pay later option in the underworld. If you didn't bring your toll, well, you're stuck wandering the banks of the Styx for eternity, like a ghost waiting for a perpetually delayed bus. You hand over your obols, feeling their surprisingly solid weight in your palm before they disappear into Charon's leathery grasp. He nods, almost imperceptibly, a gesture that carries more ancient authority than any king's decree. You step onto his flat-bottomed skiff, feeling the slight sway of the boat on the inky water. The wood feels cold and strangely old, as if it has ferried billions of souls across this very river for eons. The silence on the boat is profound, broken only by the rhythmic splash of Charon's oar as he begins to push off from the bank. It's a surprisingly soothing sound. The gentle plop splash of the oar cutting through the still water, a hypnotic rhythm that could easily lull you further into slumber. A quirky tidbit about Charon is that despite his essential role, he's actually quite rarely mentioned in the earliest Greek myths. He becomes much more prominent in later Roman literature, suggesting his character evolved over time. Perhaps he was initially just a minor employee who got a big promotion due to excellent customer service, or maybe just the sheer volume of new arrivals. Regardless, his stern, silent presence makes for a truly memorable, if somewhat intimidating ferry ride. You can almost feel the gentle current pulling you deeper into the heart of Hades' dominion. The mist becomes thicker, swirling around the boat like phantom wisps, obscuring the banks until you feel truly adrift in an endless, dark expanse. This crossing is more than just a physical journey. It's a symbolic severance from the world of the living, a quiet acknowledgement that your earthly concerns are now truly behind you. The rhythmic dip of Charon's oar continues, a soothing, repetitive sound that echoes softly across the dark water. After what feels like an eternity, but is perhaps only a few moments in this timeless realm, the boat scrapes gently against a shore. You step out, the ground beneath your feet feeling firm but strangely yielding, like compacted ash. This is the land of Asphodel, a vast and sprawling plain, stretching seemingly forever beneath that perpetual twilight sky. Imagine a prairie, but instead of golden grasses swaying in a breeze, you see endless fields of asphodel flowers. They are pale and ghostly, their petals a luminous, almost translucent white, emitting a faint, sweet, and faintly melancholy scent. It's the kind of scent that reminds you of old, forgotten memories, just out of reach. This is the destination for the vast majority of souls. Not the heroes, not the villains, but the ordinary folk, the ones who lived lives that were neither spectacularly virtuous nor egregiously wicked. They are the background characters of history, the countless individuals whose lives, while meaningful to them, didn't quite earn them a spot in Elysium or a one-way trip to Tartarus. Here they wander. They are not in torment, nor are they experiencing ecstatic bliss. Their existence is one of quiet, gentle oblivion. Think of it like a very, very long retirement. You have no responsibilities, no deadlines, no bills to pay. Just being. It's surprisingly peaceful, almost therapeutic, especially after the hustle and bustle of the living world. You might even find yourself feeling a strange sense of calm settling over you as you watch the ghostly figures drift past, their forms shimmering like heat haze on a summer road. These souls, the shades, don't have much to say. They whisper sometimes in voices like dry leaves rustling in a forgotten corner. They don't remember their earthly lives with perfect clarity. Their memories are hazy, fragmented, like dreams recalled just after waking. They're certainly not gossiping about what happened in the latest season of Olympus Housewives. It's a gentle, almost meditative existence. Historians still argue whether the concept of the Asphodel Meadows as a middle ground for souls developed as a philosophical response to the perceived injustice of a purely binary afterlife, good versus bad, or if it was an earlier, more intuitive understanding of human moral complexity. Either way, it offers a lot of souls a very long, very quiet nap. As you walk, the asphodel flowers gently brush against your legs, leaving no trace, making no sound. The ground feels slightly cool, a comforting temperature for eternal slumber. You notice that some of the shades seem to be playing a very slow, ethereal game of tag, or perhaps just moving aimlessly in what might be interpreted as a game. It's oddly charming in its muted way. You might even chuckle softly to yourself, thinking of the sheer effort of running in a land of the dead where you don't even have to breathe. It's like watching a silent film where everyone is moving in slow motion. One quirky tidbit about the asphodel flower itself. In ancient Greece, it was also associated with mourning and the dead in the living world. People would sometimes plant asphodel on graves, believing it was the favorite food of the deceased. So, you're basically walking through an enormous, eternal, ghostly buffet. Imagine trying to explain that concept to a modern day caterer. Yes, we need millions of translucent flowers for our very, very long term guests. The logistics alone are mind boggling. You continue to wander, observing the countless shades. They don't seem to notice you, or if they do, They offer no reaction. You are simply another fleeting presence in their endless, gentle drifting. There's a subtle beauty in this quiet acceptance, this soft resignation. No ambition, no pain, no striving, just the quiet hum of existence in a field of pale flowers. It's the ultimate chill out zone, really. No pressure to achieve anything, no FOMO, just pure, unadulterated, eternal relaxation. It makes you wonder, if you were a soul here, what would you think about? Probably nothing too strenuous, just pleasant, hazy thoughts, like what you'll have for breakfast in about 1,000 years. The sheer scale of the Asphodel meadows is hard to grasp. It seems to stretch to every horizon, dissolving into the perpetual twilight. You could walk for an eternity and still be surrounded by the same gently swaying, pale flowers and drifting shades. It truly embodies the concept of boring history for sleep, because what could be more soothing than endless, quiet fields where nothing much ever happens and everyone is just being? It's the kind of place where you could easily just lie down, close your eyes, and drift off, becoming one with the soft, eternal hum of the underworld, leaving the vast, gentle expanse of the Asphodel meadows. You notice the landscape beginning to change, subtly at first, then more dramatically. The soft, uniform gray gives way to areas of deeper shadow and, occasionally, a faint, almost ethereal glow. You are now approaching the more specialized districts of Hades's realm, where the balance of justice is truly manifested. On one side, rising gently into the perpetual twilight, are the serene, luminous fields of Elysium. On the other, far in the distance, a truly terrifying chasm yawns open, emanating a faint, unsettling heat. This, my friends, is Tartarus. Let's focus first on Elysium, a place of profound beauty and eternal spring. As you draw nearer, the air itself feels lighter, imbued with a subtle warmth and a gentle, sweet fragrance, distinct from the asphodel's melancholic perfume. Here, the landscape is one of rolling hills, lush meadows, and groves of trees that shimmer with an otherworldly light. Think of the most perfect, peaceful garden you can imagine, then make it eternal. It's like a perpetually pleasant Sunday afternoon in paradise. This is the dwelling place for the truly virtuous, the heroes, and those favored by the gods. These aren't just the warriors of epic fame, they are also the poets, the artists, the philosophers, and those who lived lives of exceptional moral integrity. Basically, the ancient Greek equivalent of getting into a very exclusive, very chill country club. The souls in Elysium, unlike the hazy shades of Asphodel, retain their memories and their intellect. They converse, they feast, they enjoy eternal games and artistic pursuits. They are not tormented by the past or worried about the future. They simply are in a state of blessed contentment. You might see Achilles debating philosophy with Plato, or Odysseus enjoying a quiet game of dice with a long-lost companion. It's a place of quiet joy, where every moment is a gentle sigh of pure satisfaction. Historians still argue whether the concept of Elysium was an aristocratic ideal, primarily reserved for heroes and nobles, or if it gradually broadened to include any truly righteous individual, regardless of social standing. It's a question of who truly deserved eternal bliss in the eyes of the ancients. One quirky tidbit about Elysium is that it was sometimes believed to have its own sun and stars, distinct from the world of the living, providing a perpetual, gentle radiance that never quite became full daylight. So, imagine a perfect sunset that just lasts forever. No sunrises, no glaring noon, just that perfect golden hour glow. It sounds pretty idyllic for a permanent vacation, doesn't it? Now turn your gaze, if you dare, towards the opposite extreme, Tartarus. Even from a distance, its presence is chilling. It's a vast, bottomless pit, a prison of unimaginable suffering, located deep within the underworld itself. The air here crackles with a latent energy. The very ground seems to vibrate with the echoes of eternal screams. This isn't just a place for punishment. It's the original dungeon for the most heinous offenders. The Titans themselves were imprisoned here after their defeat by the Olympians, bound by unbreakable chains for eternity. Imagine a maximum security prison designed by angry gods, and you're still probably underestimating it. The punishments inflicted in Tartarus are legendary, designed to be eternal and perfectly tailored to the transgression. You have Sisyphus forever pushing his boulder uphill only for it to roll back down just as he reaches the top. Tantalus, perpetually starving and parched, with food and water forever just out of his reach. Ixion, bound to a fiery, eternally spinning wheel. These aren't minor inconveniences. They are tailor-made tortures, designed to be endlessly frustrating and agonizing. It's like being stuck in the world's worst customer service queue forever, with no hope of ever reaching an actual human. And to think, some people complain about being on hold for 5 minutes. You can hear the faint, distant sounds from Tartarus, the scraping of Sisyphus's rock, the mournful groans of Tantalus, the almost musical creak of Ixion's wheel. It's a symphony of suffering designed to instill a profound sense of cosmic justice. One light joke, if you can call it that, is that the gods were remarkably creative in their punishments. You'd think after a few millennia, they'd run out of new ideas. But no, they kept coming up with fresh and inventive ways to make eternity miserable for their enemies. The stark contrast between Elysium and Tartarus truly defines the moral landscape of the underworld. It highlights the ancient Greek belief in a just afterlife, where actions in life had direct, eternal consequences. It's a profound thought to ponder as you stand between these two extremes, the quiet bliss of the blessed and the endless agony of the condemned. You might even find yourself breathing a little easier, grateful for your current, temporary status as a mere observer. Having observed the ultimate destinations for souls, you turn your attention now to the silent, watchful figure who presides over it all, Hades himself. He's often misunderstood, largely because he rules a realm most mortals would understandably prefer to avoid. But picture him not as a malevolent overlord, but as a being of immense power and profound responsibility. He is, first and foremost, the god of the dead, a crucial and inescapable aspect of existence. Every soul, regardless of their earthly deeds, eventually enters his dominion. This isn't a choice, it's a cosmic inevitability. Imagine him seated on a throne of dark ebony, perhaps inlaid with precious, eerie stones that gleam faintly in the perpetual twilight. His attire would be somber, rich, perhaps of deep purple or black, signifying his regal authority. He isn't given to flamboyant displays of power like his brother Zeus, nor is he prone to the boisterous revelry of Poseidon. Hades is a god of quiet strength, immense patience, and an unyielding will. He's the strong, silent type, if you will, the kind of deity who gets things done without a lot of fuss or unnecessary drama. You won't find him throwing lightning bolts or stirring up hurricanes. His power is far more subtle, more fundamental. His personality, as gleaned from the myths, is one of unwavering stoicism. He is just, but utterly impartial. He doesn't show favoritism, nor does he succumb to pity. This makes him a perfect judge of souls, seeing through the veil of mortal lives to the true essence of their deeds. He's the ultimate detached administrator, managing an economy of souls, ensuring the delicate balance between life and death is maintained. Think of the paperwork involved: billions of souls, endless records. No wonder he always looks a little tired. He's probably been trying to get a new filing system implemented for eons, but the Furies just don't understand blockchain. One of the mainstream historical facts about Hades is that despite popular misconceptions, he was not considered evil by the ancient Greeks. He was a terrifying, awe-inspiring deity, yes, but necessary. His role was to ensure that death was a finality, that souls stayed put, and that the living and the dead remained separate. He was a god of boundaries, a cosmic gatekeeper. His epithets, or alternative names, often reflected this, such as Pluton, the Rich One, referring to the mineral wealth and agricultural bounty found beneath the earth, over which he also presided. So, not just dead bodies, but gold, silver, and really good root vegetables. Multifaceted. A quirky tidbit about Hades is that despite his grim associations, he was sometimes invoked in fertility rituals. This is because he ruled over the earth's bounty as well as its depths, and the cycles of planting and growth were seen as intrinsically linked to the underworld. So, you'd have people praying to Hades for a good harvest, not just for a peaceful afterlife. It's like asking your accountant for gardening tips. Unexpected, but perhaps surprisingly effective. Historians still argue whether Hades was originally an older, pre-Olympian, chthonic, earth-dwelling deity, whose portfolio was later expanded to include the dead, or if he was always conceived primarily as ruler of the underworld. This debate touches on the very origins of Greek religion and how the pantheon evolved over centuries. It's a fascinating puzzle for scholars to piece together, much like trying to figure out if your dog's ancestral line included a very sleepy badger. You can sense his presence here, a pervasive authority that doesn't need to shout to be heard. It's the quiet hum of absolute control, the kind of power that comes from simply being. He's not a showman, he's a sovereign, and while his realm might seem bleak to mortal eyes, for the souls within it, under his steady rule, there is a kind of order, a quiet rhythm to eternity. Imagine managing a perpetual graveyard shift forever. You'd probably be pretty stoic too. No need for small talk when your constituents are largely silent, and certainly no need for a flamboyant crown, just a really, really good helmet. Now, let's pivot from Hades's stoic efficiency to the tale of the one being who truly shares his lonely throne, Persephone. Her story is arguably the most famous myth connected to the underworld, a narrative that not only explains the seasons, but also provides a rare glimpse into Hades's personal life, such as it was. You see, while Hades was a powerful ruler, he was also, by most accounts, quite solitary. Not many people were lining up for a permanent residency in his kingdom, and fewer still were eager to marry him. This is where Persephone, the beautiful daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest, enters the picture. She was known for her beauty and her joyous spirit, a stark contrast to the gloom of the underworld. Imagine a ray of pure sunshine skipping through a field of vibrant flowers. That was Persephone. And then imagine Hades, the eternal bachelor of the underworld, deciding he'd had enough of ruling alone. A mainstream historical fact here is that the abduction of Persephone, also known as Kor or the Maiden, by Hades was a central myth in ancient Greek religion, particularly in the Eleusinian mysteries, one of the most important mystery cults. It wasn't just a story, it was a profound allegory for death and rebirth, especially in agriculture. One day, while Persephone was innocently gathering flowers in a sun drenched meadow, perhaps picking a particularly vibrant daffodil, oblivious to the cosmic drama about to unfold, the earth suddenly split open. From the chasm emerged Hades, riding in his chariot, drawn by 4 black horses. He swept her away, carrying her down into his shadowy realm. Talk about a dramatic first date. No dinner, and a movie, just a rapid descent into the abyss. You can imagine Demeter's reaction. Pure, unadulterated maternal fury. She was, after all, the goddess of the harvest. If her daughter was missing, she wasn't going to be in the mood to make wheat grow. Demeter's grief was so profound that she plunged the earth into a devastating famine. Crops withered, livestock died, and humanity faced extinction. This was the ultimate cosmic tantrum, the ancient Greek equivalent of refusing to get out of bed until you get what you want. But on a global scale, the gods, seeing the impending disaster, eventually intervened. Zeus, ever the mediator, when it suited him, sent Hermes to Hades to demand Persephone's return. However, there was a catch, and it's a classic piece of ancient Greek mythological bureaucracy. Hades, cunning as he was, had offered Persephone some pomegranate seeds to eat while she was in the underworld. She, perhaps out of hunger or curiosity, ate either 4 or 6 of them, depending on the version of the myth. This seemingly small act sealed her fate. The rule was, if you consumed any food or drink in the underworld, you were bound to it. It's like the ancient equivalent of accidentally accepting the cookies on a website and suddenly being subscribed to endless newsletters from the netherworld. Because she had eaten the pomegranate seeds, Persephone couldn't return permanently to the world above. A compromise was eventually struck. Persephone would spend a portion of the year, usually 1/3 or half, corresponding to the number of seeds she ate, with Hades in the underworld. and the rest of the year with her mother on Earth. And just like that, the seasons were born. When Persephone is with Hades, Demeter mourns, and the Earth experiences autumn and winter. When Persephone returns, Demeter rejoices, and spring and summer blossom. It's a beautifully simple, elegant explanation for one of nature's most fundamental cycles. A quirky tidbit about this myth is that some scholars believe the pomegranate was chosen specifically for its symbolic power, being a fruit often associated with fertility and death in various ancient cultures due to its many seeds and blood red juice. It's a fruit that perfectly encapsulates the dual nature of life and death, much like Persephone herself. Historians still argue whether the Persephone myth reflects an older matriarchal cult where the goddess ruled cycles of nature, or if it primarily served to explain a patriarchal transition of power in the divine hierarchy. It's a fascinating debate that digs deep into the social structures hinted at in ancient stories. So, while Hades's abduction of Persephone might seem like a harsh act, it also brought balance to the cosmic order and gave him a consort who was powerful in her own right. She became the queen of the underworld, sharing his authority and ruling alongside him. Imagine the power dynamic at their dinner table. Honey, did you remember to sign off on those new arrivals in Asphodel? Oh, dear, I was busy turning that irritating soul into a mint plant. It's an unusual power couple, but one that certainly gets the job done. Now that we've established the key players and the general geography of the underworld, let's talk about a very specific, incredibly important piece of divine real estate, Hades' helmet. This isn't just any old headwear. This is the Helm of Darkness, a magical artifact that renders its wearer completely invisible. You might think, oh, so Hades just wears a fancy invisibility cloak on his head? Well, yes, but it's much more than that. This helmet isn't just about disappearing, it's about absolute, unperceivable non existence, a power that makes its wearer truly undetectable by gods and mortals alike. It's the ultimate stealth technology, millennia before anyone even dreamed of radar. The origin of this magnificent, gloom-inducing headpiece is rooted in one of the most epic struggles of Greek mythology, the Titanomachy, the great war between the Olympian gods and the elder Titans. Imagine the most chaotic, earth-shattering conflict you can conceive, a cosmic clash of primordial forces. Mountains are flung, oceans boil, and the very fabric of the universe trembles. This wasn't a skirmish, it was a total war for cosmic supremacy. Before this war, the Olympians, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades were stuck in the belly of their tyrannical father, Cronus, who had a rather unfortunate habit of swallowing his children. Nice guy, really. However, Zeus, thanks to his cunning mother, Rhea, and a bit of divine trickery, was saved and eventually forced Cronus to regurgitate his siblings. Imagine being coughed up by your dad after spending your entire life in his stomach. Talk about a traumatic entry into the world once free. The three brothers, along with their sisters, needed powerful allies and weapons to take on the mighty Titans. This is where the Cyclopes and the Hecatonchires come in. These were monstrous, primordial beings whom Cronus had also imprisoned. The Cyclopes, as you might recall, were master craftsmen, incredibly skilled artisans with a single fiery eye. The Hecatonchires were even more formidable, colossal beings with 100 hands and 50 heads. Zeus, seeing an opportunity, freed these powerful allies from their prison in Tartarus. It was a risky move, but when you're facing cosmic annihilation, you take what you can get as a reward for their liberation and to aid the Olympians in their epic struggle. The Cyclopes forged 3 powerful gifts, one for each of the brothers. For Zeus, they crafted the mighty thunderbolt, a weapon of unparalleled destructive power, capable of shaking the heavens and striking down any foe. It's the ultimate divine laser pointer, capable of vaporizing anyone you point it at. For Poseidon, they created the formidable trident, a symbol of his dominion over the seas and earthquakes, capable of stirring up storms or shattering mountains. It's like a superpowered fishing spear, but for entire continents. And for Hades, they forged the Helm of Darkness. This was not merely a helmet for protection, though it certainly offered that. Its primary function was to grant the wearer the power of invisibility, not just turning translucent, but utterly, completely, invisibly gone. Poof, no trace. It's the ancient equivalent of a perfect Wi-Fi signal. You don't see it, but it's definitely working. This initial acquisition during the Titanomachy is a mainstream historical fact in Greek mythology. It set Hades apart, making him the master of stealth and the unseen. Historians still argue whether the Cyclopes' role as divine blacksmiths was an original part of their myth or an adaptation to explain the origins of these powerful weapons within the Olympian narrative. Some scholars suggest the Cyclopes were initially more associated with raw destructive power rather than refined craftsmanship. It's a good academic debate over who got the better divine gift certificate. A quirky tidbit about the Helm of Darkness is that it wasn't just a simple cap. Imagine it as a beautifully crafted piece of bronze or iron, perhaps adorned with grim, symbolic motifs, reflecting its association with the unseen and the depths of the earth. But its true magic lay within its very essence, woven into its material by the Cyclope's unparalleled skill. It wasn't about pushing a button or reciting an incantation. Simply wearing it was enough. It's the ultimate, don't mind me, I'm just passing through, accessory. So, Hades received his signature artifact, a tool perfectly suited to his nature as the unseen ruler of a hidden realm. It wasn't a weapon of aggression like Zeus's lightning bolt, but a tool of subtlety, of stealth, and of profound power. It made him a formidable, unpredictable force in the Titanomachy, able to move through the battle unseen, wreaking havoc on the unsuspecting Titans. It's like the ultimate cheat code in a cosmic video game. With the Helm of Darkness now in his possession, Hades became an invaluable, if unseen, force during the Titanomachy. You can imagine the chaos of that war. Gods and Titans clashing, mountains crumbling, the very heavens roaring with Zeus's thunderbolts. And then there was Hades, moving like a phantom, a silent, terrifying presence on the battlefield. The myths provide several instances where his invisibility proved absolutely crucial in turning the tide against the formidable Titans. One prominent example of the helm's early use involves Hades striking at the heart of the Titan forces, while Zeus engaged the most powerful Titans directly with his lightning, and Poseidon unleashed the fury of the seas. Hades used his newfound power to move undetected. He could slip past their defenses, appearing where least expected, like a perfectly executed stealth mission in a very, very old video game. Imagine a Titan, powerful and arrogant, suddenly finding their weapon mysteriously knocked from their grasp, or feeling a strange chill as an unseen force trips them over, sending them tumbling into a chasm. It's like a ghostly practical joke, but with cosmic consequences. He wasn't just lurking about, playing peekaboo with giants. One popular tale recounts how Hades, using his invisibility, managed to steal the weapons of the Titans, disarming them before they could even react. You can almost picture the confusion. A massive Titan warrior, ready to unleash a mountain-sized club, only to find it vanish from their grip mid-swing. Did I put that down somewhere? They might ponder, right before Zeus zaps them. This tactic undermined the Titan's strength and sowed confusion among their ranks, adding a layer of psychological warfare to the already brutal conflict. It's like fighting an enemy you can't see, who keeps subtly messing with your stuff. Highly annoying, and ultimately demoralizing. Another key role the helm played was in allowing Hades to infiltrate Cronus' stronghold. Cronus, remember, was the big bad, the leader of the Titans. For Hades to approach him, even in the midst of battle, would have been suicidal without the helm. But with it, he could move through the enemy lines, unseen and unheard, perhaps even delivering a crippling blow or gathering critical intelligence. Historians still argue whether these specific stealth operations attributed to Hades were always part of the Titanomachy narrative, or later additions designed to emphasize his unique contribution to the war. Some scholars suggest the earliest accounts focused more on direct combat, with stealth being a more sophisticated concept added over time. It's a debate about the evolution of heroism, even among gods. The helm wasn't just for offensive maneuvers either. It provided crucial protection. Imagine being in the thick of a cosmic battle, with mountains being hurled and divine energy erupting everywhere. Being invisible means you're not a target. Hades could observe, retreat, reposition, and strike, again without ever being perceived. This allowed him to conserve his energy and deliver critical blows at opportune moments, making him a truly unpredictable element in the war. It's the ultimate get out of jail free card, or more accurately, the never go to jail card. A quirky tidbit about the Helm of Darkness is that it was sometimes believed to not just confer invisibility, but also to shroud the wearer in a cloud of fear or dread for anyone who might somehow sense their presence. So, even if you couldn't see Hades, you might feel a sudden, inexplicable shiver down your spine, a primordial terror that signals something truly ancient and powerful is near. It's like having a bad feeling that keeps you awake at night, only to find out it was the god of the underworld sneaking past your bedroom. This concept of invisibility, wielded by a god of death, highlights a profound truth about the underworld itself. It is hidden, unseen and inescapable. The helm is a perfect extension of Hades's domain and his nature. It allows him to embody the unseen forces that govern life and death, the subtle currents that guide all souls to their ultimate destination. It's a quiet power, unlike the thunderous might of Zeus, but no less effective. In fact, its very subtlety made it terrifyingly potent, especially in a war where brute force often dominated. You can practically hear the Titans scratching their heads, wondering why their carefully laid plans kept falling apart, completely unaware of the invisible hand of Hades at work. The creation of such a powerful artifact as the Helm of Darkness naturally leads us to ponder the hands that fashioned it, the Cyclopes. These one-eyed giants weren't just brute force. They were legendary smiths, artisans of immense skill whose craftsmanship was considered unparalleled even by the gods themselves. Imagine a forge, not of mere mortal fire, but of primordial energy, echoing with the rhythmic clang of hammers striking divine metal. That's the workshop of a cyclops. These weren't your typical blacksmiths, puffing away at bellows and wiping sweat from their brows. No, the Cyclopes possessed an innate understanding of elemental forces and magical properties. Their single eye, far from being a disability, was often depicted as a source of intense focus and mystical insight, allowing them to perceive the very essence of the materials they worked with. They could coax lightning from raw ore, bend the very fabric of reality into desired forms. It's like having a master chef who can not only cook, but also invent new ingredients out of thin air. The traditional names of the three most famous Cyclopes associated with Hephaestus, the god of the forge, and the Olympian weapons are Brontes, thunderer, Steropes, lightning, and Argus, bright or thunderbolt. While these names directly relate to Zeus's thunderbolts, it's generally understood that they were the same master craftsmen who forged Poseidon's trident and Hades's helm. Think of them as the ultimate defense contractors for the gods, specializing in bespoke magical weaponry. Their workshop, often depicted as being deep within volcanic mountains, like Mount Etna, would have been a spectacle of raw power and intense heat, where divine metals glowed with an inner light and sparks flew like miniature constellations. Mainstream historical fact is that the Cyclopes, in their role as blacksmiths, are often linked to the myth of Hephaestus, the Olympian god of the forge. He was sometimes depicted as their master or teacher, or they as his assistants, working in his volcanic workshops to create magnificent artifacts for the gods. This connection solidifies their reputation as the premier divine artisans. So, if you needed a magical sword or an indestructible shield, you didn't go to your local hardware store. You placed an order with the Cyclopes. Just don't expect a quick turnaround. Divine craftsmanship takes time. The process of forging the Helm of Darkness would have been extraordinary. It wasn't just about shaping metal, it was about imbuing it with a profound magical property, invisibility. This would have required not only immense heat and strength, but also a deep understanding of mystical energies. Perhaps they incorporated shadows themselves into the metal, or captured fragments of the void, fusing them into the very essence of the helmet. Imagine them, their single eyes glowing with intense concentration, meticulously shaping the metal, whispering ancient incantations, the air thrumming with raw magic. It's the kind of artisanal skill that makes even the most sophisticated modern technology look like a child's toy. A quirky tidbit about the Cyclopes is that despite their immense power and skill, they were sometimes described as rather simple minded or even boorish in their social interactions, especially when encountered by mortals. So, they could forge a weapon of unimaginable power, but might struggle with basic table manners. It's a delightful contrast, highlighting the idea that immense talent doesn't always come with social graces. Perhaps they were just very focused on their craft, and small talk wasn't their strong suit. Historians still argue whether the monstrous, one eyed depiction of the Cyclopes originated from the discovery of prehistoric elephant or rhinoceros skulls, where the central nasal cavity might have been misinterpreted as a single eye socket. This fascinating theory suggests that ancient peoples, encountering these bizarre fossil remains, developed myths to explain them. It's a fun thought that the very foundations of divine weaponry might have come from a very old, very large nose hole. The sheer power and magical properties of the Helm of Darkness stand as a testament to the unparalleled skill of these mythical blacksmiths. They didn't just make things, they made magic, and in doing so, they provided Hades with the perfect symbol of his domain, a tool that allowed him to move and operate as the unseen, undisputed ruler of the hidden realm. It's a quiet power, a subtle might, but one that resonated deeply with the very essence of the underworld. The Helm of Darkness, as we've discussed, is most famously known for its power of invisibility. But to think that was its only trick would be like saying a thunderbolt is just a fancy sparkler. The myths, while sometimes subtle, hint at a broader range of effects and a deeper magical resonance that went beyond simply making its wearer unseen. This wasn't just a cloak of invisibility, it was an artifact that manipulated perception and presence on a fundamental level. Beyond mere optical concealment, the helm could, in essence, make the wearer untraceable and unheard. Imagine moving through a bustling marketplace or even a quiet forest, and not only are you invisible to the eye, but your footsteps make no sound. Your presence leaves no disturbance in the air, and even the faint scent of your being simply vanishes. It's the ultimate ghosting tool, long before the term was even invented for dating apps. This level of undetectable movement would be invaluable for Hades, the ruler of a hidden realm, allowing him to observe unseen or to intervene in the mortal world without revealing his divine presence. It's like being a perfect fly on the wall, except the fly is also silent and emits no warmth. There are hints in some classical texts that the helm could also induce a sense of forgetfulness or confusion in those nearby, while not explicitly stated as a direct power of the helmet. The very act of a god disappearing could certainly sow disarray. If a powerful being suddenly vanishes, it's not just where did they go? It's did they even exist? This psychological element would be a terrifying weapon, allowing Hades to undermine his enemies' confidence or make them question their own sanity. Imagine trying to fight an enemy who, every time you blink, you're not sure if you even saw them in the first place. You'd probably start questioning your coffee choices. A quirky tidbit about the helm is that some interpretations suggest it didn't just bend light around the wearer, but actually resonated with the primordial void itself, drawing upon the essence of non existence to achieve its effect. It's a much more profound concept than just a simple optical illusion, implying a deeper connection to the very fabric of reality and absence. It's not just a party trick, it's cosmic level magic, a mainstream historical fact. While invisibility was its most famous function, the Helm of Darkness shares a conceptual kinship with other divine artifacts that grant unique, non combat powers to the Greek gods. For instance, Hermes' winged sandals grant incredible speed, and Zeus's Aegis shield can strike terror into the hearts of men. These items aren't just weapons, they are extensions of the gods' domains and abilities, often embodying fundamental cosmic principles. The helm, therefore, isn't just a helmet, it's the very embodiment of the unseen, the hidden, the inevitable. Historians still argue whether the helm's powers were strictly limited to invisibility or if its broader implications for stealth and mental disorientation were later elaborations on the core myth. Some scholars believe that early myths were more straightforward in their magical effects, with later poets adding layers of complexity to make the narratives more compelling. It's a debate about how myths evolve, much like how a simple campfire story about a shadow can become a full-blown horror novel over generations. Consider the strategic implications. If Hades wanted to observe mortal affairs without interference, or if he needed to pass through realms guarded by other deities without being challenged, the helm was his perfect tool. It allowed him to maintain his profound separation from the world of the living, a key aspect of his role. He wasn't one to interfere lightly, and when he did, he preferred to do so silently, subtly, leaving no trace. It's the opposite of a grand entrance. It's the ultimate quiet exit, or rather, quiet non entrance. This power of absolute unseen passage reinforces Hades's dominion over the hidden aspects of existence. He doesn't need to brandish a weapon to assert his authority. His very presence, or lack thereof, commands respect and trepidation. The helm is a perfect extension of this persona, allowing him to be the silent, inevitable force that guides all souls to their final, unseen destination. While the Helm of Darkness was primarily a divine artifact created for gods to use in their epic struggles, the myths occasionally whisper of mortals who, by chance or fate, came into contact with its incredible power. These encounters were, as you might imagine, incredibly rare and often had profound, sometimes tragic, consequences for the unfortunate human involved. It's like stumbling upon a cosmic secret that your mortal mind isn't quite equipped to handle. One of the most famous instances of a mortal borrowing the helm comes from the myth of Perseus. Remember our hero, tasked with the seemingly impossible mission of slaying the Gorgon Medusa. Medusa, with her venomous snakes for hair and a gaze that turned anyone to stone, was no easy foe. To even look at her was to invite instant petrification. This is where divine intervention and a little help from some very useful artifacts became crucial. Perseus received aid from several deities, each providing a piece of equipment vital for his quest. Athena, the goddess of wisdom and warfare, gave him a polished shield so he could see Medusa's reflection without direct eye contact. Hermes, the swift messenger god, provided him with winged sandals for speed. But it was Hades who, through Athena, lent Perseus his most potent weapon, the Helm of Darkness. This is a mainstream historical fact in the Perseus myth, crucial to his success. Without the helm, approaching Medusa would have been impossible. He wouldn't just be invisible, he'd be unheard, unsmelled, utterly undetectable. Imagine Perseus, heart pounding, creeping through Medusa's lair. He's wearing the helm, feeling that strange, otherworldly stillness that accompanies absolute invisibility. He can see the terrified statues of those who came before him, frozen mid-scream, mid-flight. But Medusa herself, secure in her monstrous power, has no idea he's there. He moves silently, expertly guided by Athena's wisdom and the reflection in his shield until he is close enough to strike. The helm allowed him to deliver the decisive blow without Medusa ever sensing his approach, sealing her fate and allowing him to escape with her dreaded head. It's the ultimate ninja move, ancient Greek edition. A quirky tidbit about this episode. Some accounts suggest that after using the helm, Perseus might have felt a lingering sense of detachment or a peculiar quietness, as if a part of him had permanently absorbed the essence of the unseen. It's like borrowing a very powerful tool and finding out it's left a permanent, subtle change in your own perception. You might start noticing things that others don't, or simply prefer to fade into the background. Another less common and more cautionary tale involves a mortal who might have inadvertently stumbled upon the helm. Imagine a shepherd, perhaps, exploring a deep, forgotten cave, only to find a peculiar helmet resting on an ancient altar. Driven by curiosity, they put it on, and poof, they vanish. What then? The myths don't always provide a happy ending for such accidental encounters. Such a person might find themselves permanently trapped in a state of invisibility, unable to interact with the world, or perhaps even lose their sense of self as their physical presence becomes irrelevant. It's a reminder that divine power is not to be trifled with, especially if you're just a curious goat herder. You probably shouldn't just try on ancient magical headwear without reading the instruction manual first. Historians still argue whether the inclusion of Hades' helm in the Perseus myth was an original element, or if it was added later to make the story more exciting and to highlight the interconnectedness of the gods. Some scholars suggest that earlier versions of the myth focused more on Perseus's own courage and divine guidance, with the magical artifacts being less central. It's a debate about how mythical narratives are constructed and embellished over time. These stories of mortals using the helm emphasize its immense power and the strict boundaries between the divine and the human. For a god like Hades, invisibility is a natural extension of his domain over the unseen world. For a mortal, it's a temporary, potentially dangerous gift that allows them to perform extraordinary feats, but always with the understanding that such power is not truly their own, and when it's returned, you're back to being gloriously, wonderfully visible. Thankfully, the Helm of Darkness, much like the gods it served, didn't just appear once and then vanish from the mythological landscape. Its presence, or at least its underlying concept, subtly resurfaces and adapts in later myths and even in broader cultural interpretations, often retaining its core symbolism of hidden power and unseen influence. It's like a good song that gets remixed over the centuries, each version adding a new layer but keeping the core melody. While the helm itself isn't always explicitly named in every subsequent tale, the idea of a hero gaining invisibility through divine aid or magical means echoes its original power. Think of other stories where a character might become unseen to achieve a goal, whether through magical cloaks, rings, or even potions. The Helm of Darkness laid some of the foundational narrative groundwork for these later tales of invisibility in Western literature. It's like the original patent for disappearing acts. In some later interpretations and philosophical discussions of the underworld, Hades's invisibility became less about a physical helmet and more about his inherent nature as the unseen one. This is a mainstream historical fact in the sense that later philosophical and religious thought often abstracted the gods from their direct physical manifestations. He became the embodiment of death's inevitability, a force that is always present but never seen, working silently in the background of all existence. His realm, too, is unseen by the living, making the helm a perfect metaphor for his entire dominion. It's a beautifully consistent piece of branding, if you think about it. A quirky tidbit about the helm's conceptual evolution. In some folklore, the concept of a cap of invisibility, or Hades's cap, became a generic magical item that anyone could theoretically acquire, rather than a unique divine artifact. This shows how powerful and appealing the idea of disappearing was to the human imagination. Imagine a medieval peasant wishing they had a Hades's cap to avoid their lord's gaze or sneak into the baker's without paying. It's the ultimate dream of every shy person or every petty thief. Historians still argue whether the later emphasis on Hades as the unseen one was a natural progression of his character or influenced by parallel deities in other cultures who also governed unseen realms or aspects of death. The blending of mythologies is a complex field, much like trying to disentangle which ancient recipe influenced which modern dish. Did the idea of the unseen simply become more profound, or did external influences deepen its meaning? Even outside of direct mythological references, the cultural impact of Hades's helm can be seen in literature and popular culture that explore themes of anonymity, surveillance, and the power of being unobserved. From fantasy novels where heroes wear magical cloaks to spy thrillers where agents use advanced stealth technology, the core allure of the Helm of Darkness persists. It speaks to a very human desire, whether for good or ill, to move through the world without being perceived. It's the ultimate fantasy for anyone who has ever wanted to avoid an awkward conversation at a party. The helm, in a way, is timeless. Its power remains universally intriguing, because it taps into a fundamental human fascination with what lies beyond our senses. It's not just about what you can't see, it's about the profound impact of what is absent. It highlights the idea that some of the most powerful forces in the universe operate not through grand displays, but through quiet, pervasive, and utterly unseen influence. And Hades, with his helm, stands as the ultimate symbol of that quiet, inevitable power. Beyond its literal powers, the Helm of Darkness carries immense symbolic weight, especially when considering Hades himself and his vast domain. It's not just a fancy bit of headgear, it's a profound representation of the very essence of the underworld and the inescapable nature of death. You see, invisibility isn't just about not being seen, it's about being beyond perception, operating in a realm that is fundamentally separate from the visible world. Think about the underworld itself. It is, by its very definition, the unseen realm. You can't simply walk into it from the living world unless you're a hero on a very specific quest or perhaps a very unfortunate tourist. It exists beneath the earth, hidden from mortal eyes, a parallel dimension where the rules of life no longer apply. The helm, therefore, perfectly embodies this hidden quality. When Hades wears it, he becomes one with his domain, an unperceivable force guiding souls to their silent rest. It's like the ultimate metaphor for the hidden mechanisms of existence. The concept of death itself is also profoundly tied to the helm. Death is an unseen process. We don't see the exact moment a soul departs. It's a transition that happens in the quiet, in the imperceptible. Hades, as the god of death, naturally embodies this unseen transition. His helm makes him the ultimate expression of this fundamental truth. Death is everywhere, an ever present force, yet it operates without being seen. It's the silent, inevitable hand that guides all things to their conclusion. Imagine death as a cosmic stage manager, subtly moving props and actors, always present but never visible. A mainstream historical fact here is that in many ancient cultures, not just Greek, the gods associated with death or the underworld were often considered dark or hidden deities, not necessarily evil, but powerful figures whose domains were apart from the sunlit world. The Helm of Darkness thus aligns perfectly with this broader ancient understanding of the chthonic powers. It's a universal symbol, really, for the mysteries that lie beyond our immediate perception. One quirky tidbit about the symbolism is how it plays into the human fear of the unknown. The unseen is often more terrifying than what we can clearly perceive. If you can't see the monster, how do you fight it? If you can't see death, how do you avoid it? The Helm of Darkness taps into this primal fear, making Hades not just powerful, but also deeply unsettling in his hidden influence. It's like when you're home alone and hear a creak. The sound itself isn't scary. It's the unknown source of the sound that makes your hair stand on end. Historians still argue whether the concept of invisibility, as represented by the helm, was primarily a practical military advantage in myth, or if its deeper symbolic meaning as a representation of hidden, inevitable forces was its primary significance from the outset. It's a debate about the poetic versus the practical, or perhaps how the practical aspects of mythology often serve to illustrate deeper philosophical truths. The helm also represents privacy and non interference. Hades is not a god who meddles constantly in mortal affairs. He stays in his realm, managing the dead. The helm allows him to maintain this detachment, to observe if necessary without being seen, and to fulfill his duties without direct intervention. It's a symbol of divine aloofness, a reminder that some powers operate on a plane far removed from our daily lives. He doesn't need to be seen to be respected. In fact, his unseen nature might even enhance his authority. In essence, the Helm of Darkness is more than just a magical item. It's a cosmic statement. It tells us that Hades' power is not about overt displays, but about fundamental, inescapable realities. It reminds us that some of the most profound forces in the universe operate in the quiet, in the shadows, always present, always influential, yet forever unseen. And as you drift further into the realm of sleep, perhaps you can appreciate the quiet comfort of being hidden from the world for a while. Now, after all this talk of powerful artifacts and cosmic battles, let's imagine what daily life might actually be like for the countless souls wandering the underworld. You might expect endless weeping and gnashing of teeth, but for the majority in the Asphodel meadows, it's surprisingly mundane, almost gently humorous in its eternal quietude. It's not a party, certainly, but it's not a horror show either. It's more like a very, very long, very, very quiet Sunday afternoon. Forever, consider the shades in the asphodel fields. They're largely memory faded, content in their gentle oblivion. What do? All day? Well, not much. They drift. They mill about. Perhaps they occasionally bump into each other in a ghostly fashion and then drift apart again. Imagine a retirement home where everyone has forgotten what they were about to say. It's that level of serene, aimless existence. They're not bored, because to be bored, you need to remember what being unbored felt like. It's remarkably efficient, really, from a divine management perspective. No complaints department needed. For those in Elysium, daily life is, by definition, blissful. They feast eternally, engage in pleasant conversation, practice their arts, or enjoy eternal games. Picture endless, perfect picnics where the ambrosia never runs out and the conversation is always stimulating, but never stressful. It's like being perpetually at your favorite resort, but without the checkout time. One mainstream historical fact is that Elysium was conceived as a place of eternal leisure and intellectual pursuits for the blessed, a reward for a life well lived. No chores, no taxes, just pure, unadulterated enjoyment. Even the heroes, who were fierce warriors in life, would now spend their time debating philosophy or reciting poetry, trading their swords for scrolls. Then there are the unfortunate few in Tartarus. Their daily life is, of course, perpetual torment, but even there, you might find a strange, grim rhythm. Sisyphus has his rock, Tantalus has his thirst. They are fulfilling their eternal sentences with a kind of resigned efficiency. It's like the universe's most extreme form of corporate accountability, where your performance review is literally eternal. You might even imagine the Furies, the goddesses of vengeance, occasionally popping in to check on them, perhaps with a clipboard, making sure everyone is adequately suffering. Are we adequately suffering today, Mr. Sisyphus? Excellent. Keep up the good work. A quirky tidbit about the bureaucracy of the underworld. Imagine the sheer volume of souls passing through on a daily basis. Hades must have a very organized system, perhaps a dedicated department for incoming souls, another for determining destinations, and a complex network of psychopomps, soul guides, to ensure everyone ends up in the right place. It's like the DMV, but for eternity. You'd hope they had good queue management systems, and you'd probably need a lot of Charons for all those ferry rides. Historians still argue whether the detailed descriptions of daily life in the afterlife, especially the mundane aspects, were widely disseminated beliefs among common Greeks or primarily literary inventions used by poets and playwrights to make the underworld more relatable. Did the average person truly imagine the shades as perpetually drifting? Or was that simply a poetic device? It's a debate about how much of mythology reflects genuine religious belief versus creative storytelling. Even Hades himself, despite his stoic nature, must have some form of daily routine. Checking in on Persephone, reviewing the latest batch of arrivals, perhaps a quiet moment tending to his underground gardens, which, surprisingly, were sometimes associated with his domain. He probably has a very dry sense of humor, too. Imagine him cracking a subtle joke that only Cerberus understands, and the three heads give a synchronized, low rumble of approval. So, while the underworld can sound daunting, for most, it's a place of quiet, gentle repose. For others, a place of eternal bliss. And for a very few, a place of never ending consequences. But for all of them, it's a form of daily life, albeit one very different from our own. It's the ultimate sleepover, some of it peaceful, some of it, well, less so, but all of it quietly humming along as our journey through the underworld draws to a close and the faint, ghostly glow of the asphodel fields begins to soften even further. We return to the quiet majesty of Hades and his enigmatic Helm of Darkness. This artifact, forged in the fiery heart of creation, is more than just a tool for invisibility. It is a profound emblem of the hidden, the inevitable, and the eternally unseen. It's the ultimate statement piece for a god who governs the ultimate mystery. You can almost feel the presence of the helm. Even now, a subtle shift in the air, a sense of something important just beyond your perception. It's like the feeling of knowing something significant is happening in the dark, just out of sight, yet utterly present. Hades, with his helm, remains the stoic, unwavering ruler of the dead, a cosmic administrator ensuring the delicate balance of existence. He doesn't seek glory or adoration. His power is in his quiet authority, his undeniable omnipresence in the lives and deaths of all beings. He's the silent, steady hand that guides every soul to its final destination, whether it's a blissful meadow or a perpetually frustrating hill. A mainstream historical fact to gently lull you further. The Greek underworld and Hades' role within it evolved considerably over centuries, influenced by various philosophical schools and local cults. It was never a static concept, but a rich tapestry of beliefs that adapted to changing human understanding of life, death, and justice. The Helm of Darkness, too, adapted in its symbolism, growing from a simple magical item to a representation of cosmic forces. So, even the oldest stories are always subtly changing, like sand in the quiet currents of an unseen river, a quirky tidbit to drift off to. Some ancient Greek funeral practices involved placing honey cakes or other foodstuffs with the deceased, not just for Charon, but as a potential offering to Cerberus, hoping to appease the multi-headed guardian and ensure a peaceful passage. Imagine trying to get a three-headed dog to sit still long enough to eat a honey cake. That's dedication, and perhaps a touch of desperation from the grieving living. Historians still argue whether the perceived grimness of the Greek underworld, compared to some other cultures' afterlives, reflected a pessimistic view of human existence or simply a pragmatic acceptance of death as a fundamental, inescapable part of the cycle of life. It's a deep question, one that perhaps you can ponder as you drift off to sleep. Was it a place to be feared, or simply a destination to be accepted? As the faint sounds of our journey fade and the underworld prepares for another quiet eternity, you can almost hear the soft rustle of asphodel, the distant murmur of the River Styx, and the contented sigh of Hades in his unseen throne room. His helm of darkness ensures that he remains hidden, silent, and ever present, a constant reminder that some of the most profound truths lie just beyond our sight. Now, let the lingering echoes of our journey through the unseen realm dissolve into the quiet hum of your own space. Feel the gentle weight of your blankets, the soft pillow cradling your head. The world of myths and ancient gods is slowly receding, leaving you in the comforting quiet of your own room. The hidden depths of the underworld, the stoic god Hades, and his mysterious Helm of Darkness, they all fade into the soft haze that precedes true slumber. Let your thoughts become as light as the asphodel petals, drifting gently without effort or concern. Breathe slowly, deeply, allowing each exhale to carry away any lingering wakefulness. The night is quiet and rest awaits. There's nothing left to do but simply be, just like the silent shades in the asphodel meadows.